Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on All Day Live. We're glad you're with us for the next couple of hours. We have a lot that we're going to be covering, including some live events, some developing news. We have a live interview today. That live interview, the big one today, is with Minneapolis Police Chief O'Hara, who's going to be joining us here in the studio in just a couple of minutes. A lot to talk about in our monthly check-in with him, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. Also, we're keeping an eye on what's called a dignified transfer ceremony. This is for those two Iowa National Guard soldiers who were killed in an attack in Syria over the weekend. So we'll try to bring some of that to you live if we can. We're following this conflict that's been developing in Nisswa. City Council there trying to move forward with asking the mayor to resign. The mayor of Nisswa is Jennifer Carnahan. She has been previously, you may know her name from being the chair of the Minnesota GOP for several years, and so we have some more developments there that we'll run through as well. Families across Minnesota are gathering at the state capitol this afternoon for a very specific purpose. They're holding a press conference because they're very concerned about some cuts through medica insurance, and they say that they're calling them dangerous cuts because these are cuts to care for children with medical complexities. So we're going to hear a little bit more about what they're concerned about. And then a little bit later next hour, that big announcement for the Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame. It's not the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame in Eveleth. I often would confuse those two as well, but this is the Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame. So Natalie Darwitz will be here, Andrew Height. So we're gonna learn a lot about that coming up next hour. We're really excited to tell you where it's going and what's going to be in it. First, though, let's run through some of these headlines for you before we bring in the chief and start talking about some of those things in the headlines. First, this update on yesterday's online threats. These, of course, shut down several metro high schools yesterday. We were talking about it during our show. Everybody back in class today, and police did end up arresting a 16-year-old. Charges are pending, so this is who police believe posted those online threats. Police still questioning, we understand, 2 other juveniles as they continue to investigate. So the high schools that we're talking about, some of them were in Apple Valley, Eagan area, Burnsville as well. And police wanted us to stress again today that they don't believe there's any ongoing threat to any schools. So everybody back in those high schools today while that investigation continues. Let's see, right now, something that's happening starting today, it's going to run through Saturday. They are voting in the state's largest school district. So we're talking about Anoka-Hennepin, ahead of what could be a teachers' strike. So Anoka-Hennepin teachers have been working without a contract since the end of June. They say that the main sticking point here is the teachers union says that pay raises aren't enough to meet the rising health insurance costs. The voting starts today, goes through Saturday, and if they do end up approving a strike, we're talking about more than 3,000 teachers and licensed staff, others who could walk off the job. It would be in early January, so just as students would be returning from winter break. So we've got eyes on that. We don't expect any major movement there until probably Saturday when they go ahead and count those votes up. Another thing that we're watching today is the House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee hearing this morning. This is something that Amber was listening to. And they're basically talking about assisted living facilities, licenses, and adult day services. And a big part of this discussion with the Department of Human Services really revolved around what some lawmakers on the Fraud Prevention Committee see as an imbalance between the number of providers and the need in the community. So we wanted to just cut a portion of this for you.
We should be putting the cart before the horse and approving hundreds and hundreds of providers when we don't have on the case management demand side, case managers signaling that we need those providers. So could you address why all those were approved?
Thank you, Chair Robbins. I agree. We need a system that is balanced properly. Just last year, we got the ability to put temporary moratoriums in place. Before that, we're given the directive and an authority to approve providers based on what's in statute. And when we are not doing that, or when we have had a glut of providers coming into the market, in fact, DHS faced a lot of pressure from legislators and the public on not going fast enough and not getting enough providers licensed or approved or enrolled as providers. So I think I go back to my opening comments where I say I really want to work on this together. I think the legislature in a bipartisan way needs to look at how we set up providers, what tools we give agencies to approve or deny providers, and that we are creating the right incentives and balance in the marketplace.
So who was pressuring you to approve providers?
So it would be a whole host of legislators and providers. So when there are people wanting to enter the market, licensure or approval or certification is seen as a barrier to entry. And we would get people saying, my application has been in for X number of weeks, X number of months. You need to, we need you to go faster. People need services. And so I've been at the state long enough that I've seen sort of the ebbs and flows of this.
Okay, and Amber's jumping in here, Amber, because you said that you just saw something come across the desk here regarding the Trump administration and Governor Walz. Correct. What did you end up seeing?
Yeah, so Trump's education secretary actually just sent Governor Walz a letter yesterday calling on him to resign over what they're calling the developing fraud crisis here in Minnesota. In the letter here, the U.S. Education Secretary said, you've been Minnesota's governor since 2019. During that time, your careless lack of oversight and abuse of the welfare system has attracted fraudsters from around the world to establish a beachhead of criminality in our country. As President Trump put it, you have turned Minnesota into a fraudulent hub of money laundering activity. And then at the end, she says, given your dereliction of the office entrusted to you by Minnesotans, I implore you to resign and make way for more capable leadership. Again, that's a letter just sent from Trump's education secretary to Governor Walz yesterday. So really some scathing words.
Yeah, nothing specific about education though in there that we were hearing. Just kind of a statement of to resign. Okay.
Yeah. So again, that letter obtained by Fox News Digital yesterday.
Okay.
So
all right.
Yep.
Okay, well, thanks for that update. And then also, we do have, as you know, Amber, President Trump tonight addressing the nation from the White House, 8 o'clock. Is that 8 o'clock our time?
I believe so.
Okay.
8 o'clock our time. And I mean, maybe he will talk about Governor Walz tonight. We've seen it frequently.
Yeah, I don't think they've really laid out, other than sort of overarching topics, they haven't really laid out exactly. Sometimes we get a little bit of a heads up right beforehand of the actual speech or address. So you can stream that on Fox Local tonight as well. So again, we believe it's 8 o'clock our time tonight. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Well, let me just truck through a couple of more things here while we get ready for our interview with Chief O'Hara. Really quickly, we're into like 3 weeks now. Wow, it's been 3 weeks of these pre-trial hearings for Luigi Mangione, and they are actually expected to wrap up today. Of course, he's charged with murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson a year ago. Mangione's lawyers have been trying now for several weeks to argue that some key evidence should be thrown out. Police ended up finding a gun, a notebook, among other things, when they arrested Mangione several days later in Pennsylvania. And police believe that these link Mangione to the killing. But his defense says that these things were collected illegally by police. So those arguments have been playing out here for the last 3 weeks. Expected to wrap up today, and we probably won't get that judge's decision until January, and there has not yet been a trial date set for this particular trial in New York. This is the murder trial. He also faces a federal trial, which would, if convicted, have a possibility of the death penalty there as well. All right, let's do this. Let's toss to our friend Cody Matz, who is here to tell us a little bit about, it's a melt. The melt is on for sure. Yep. As we head into this weekend, getting closer to Christmas, and people might might be wondering, well, is there going to be anything left for a white Christmas, or how are we doing?
I think so. I mean, we still have a 7-inch snowpack. That's officially at MSP Airport. Obviously, your backyard will vary a little bit, and it kind of depends on what direction your yard faces. For example, my backyard faces south, so that melts a lot faster than the north side of the front yard. I think we'll still have some left. Now, is it going to be a lot? Potentially not. We're getting a little bit of melting today. We actually obviously refroze in the overnight hours. We're right near the freeze mark here in the Twin Cities at the moment. So not super melting today, but we will see some more, especially as temperatures continue to rise. Live look outside, there's at least some filtered sunshine. Now, the big thing with late today, this evening, and tonight is southerly flow kicking in. Well, I was expecting that not to have an arrow on the end of it, but a southerly flow kicking in. And so that will lead to gustier conditions overall ahead of our next wave. And this is a significant wave. I mean, so much so, there's actually been some severe thunderstorm warnings in sections of southern Idaho. There's a lot of wind with this. I turn on all the high wind warnings or the wind headlines, and there you go. I mean, we're talking a dozen plus states, most of the northern parts of the northwestern parts of the country getting lots of wind. 60-mile-an-hour plus gusts in some of the river valley or some of the valley locations, 100-mile-an-hour gusts in some of the mountain locations. Obviously not going to be that strong around here, but we're going to get enough wind overall taking us through the next 24 to 36 hours. It will come with a batch of rain, though, this evening. Walk you through the next few hours. There you go. Cloud cover on the increase this afternoon. Probably won't see any rain showers here in the metro until probably after 7 or 8 p.m. And then that will take us through the overnight hours. That's when temperatures will be the warmest. So we continue climbing. We're right around the freeze mark now, 35 by 3:30 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. So a touch of melting, but temperatures continue rising from there. In fact, we may be either side of 40 right into the midnight hour and into the early overnight. That's when we'll see some widespread light rain showers, pretty much statewide. And then temperatures start to slide as we head through the day tomorrow. We'll probably get through the Thursday morning commute above the freeze mark, so that should prevent some significant travel issues. But then temperatures plummet, things refreeze. There will be some sneaky slippery spots at least through tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, and there'll be some scattered snow showers. Now, while we're not expecting really much, if anything, in the way of accumulation here in the metro especially, it may look a little ominous at times because, of course, we get a snow shower, even if it's just a few flakes, it's going to come with a lot of wind. So visibilities may struggle in pockets as we head through Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. So there's the next couple of days. Drastically falling temperatures on Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. Much calmer on Friday, chillier. Highs in the low to middle 20s. Similar story going into Saturday. Kind of a chilly weekend overall. And then we start the melting trend again next week. Low 30s Monday and Tuesday. If I had a day 8-9, which would be Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, maybe mid 30s both afternoons. So an overall more mild pattern, but obviously there's still going to be plenty of ups and downs in our more mild pattern. So there you go. It's going to be kind of a wild ride on Thursday.
Yep. All right. That's December in Minnesota. So thanks, Cody. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara is here, and we'll chat with him. Stay with us. All Day Live continues. All right, welcome back. Joining me now is Chief Brian O'Hara, Minneapolis Police Chief. Thank you so much for coming. We check in about once a month with you to talk about what's going on in the city, and there's increasingly more and more to talk about. Really tough topics that we wanted to try to tackle today in this way that we could just really stretch things out and slow things down a little. We know that there's a lot of focus, obviously, on ICE operations in the metro. I'm curious what's been going through your mind as you've seen the things that we've seen, the clips online, just little snippets of these raids.
Yeah. Well, my biggest concern and what I worry about all the time is keeping the people of Minneapolis safe. And I think a lot of what we've seen, you know, it's been an issue around, you know, not necessarily what people are doing in terms of enforcing federal law. I think the issue has been more so how people are doing that. And I think it's been very destabilizing for a lot of people in the community. A significant portion of the city are immigrants. And that sort of instability is something that criminals and bad actors can take advantage of, and that's been the concern.
Yeah, and I want to dig a little bit deeper into that. Has MPD had to respond to anything sort of ICE related in the last couple of weeks?
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to kind of talk us through anything that you think is important to highlight in that response?
Well, I think the difficulty of it is there's just so much misunderstanding about the role of local police and the role of federal law enforcement and what we can and can't do. And our number one priority is keeping the people of Minneapolis safe. We're the local police. We respond to shootings and robberies and domestic violence and all those types of things. That's not what federal law enforcement does. Federal law enforcement has their own job to do. But what's happened at times is these two things kind of overlap and they cross. And it puts us in the middle of a very emotionally charged political situation. And so we do our best to only respond when there are life safety issues, because that's our responsibility. And to the extent that we can, we try and de-escalate and ensure that everyone is safe, and then we disengage, because that's what our role is. In general, if people are protesting, they do that every day. Multiple times a day in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. We don't get involved. We don't get involved in First Amendment activity, people peaceably assembling, people simply being present and recording law enforcement activity, exercising First Amendment rights. We don't get involved in those types of things. We do have an obligation to get involved when there's life safety issues. People
may not know, in the city of Minneapolis, many cities, there's a separation ordinance, and we know that City Council just amended theirs. It went from kind of like a shorter one-pager almost to, I understand, like 6 pages long. Was there anything added in there that would prohibit city employees, including cops, from crossing those lines into federal operations?
I mean, this is nothing new. It's been the policy of and the law in Minneapolis, as well as many other cities, for more than 20 years. In some cases, even decades longer than that. Los Angeles has had something similar since 1979. They've added some additional reporting requirements and mandates for disciplinary action and that sort of thing. But the essence that I think most people are concerned about, the separation between local law enforcement doing the role of the police and not reporting people to ICE, not inquiring about people's immigration status, not turning people over, that's been the law here for at least 23 years, and it's been the same in many other cases.
Okay, so if
they don't do our job and we don't do theirs, like we have enough to do our job.
So if people see MPD at an active ICE scene, what I'm hearing from you is they can rest assured that you're there, you're there for specific reasons, and you're obeying the separation ordinance. And if you're not, there's some accountability there that'll happen if you aren't. So that's one piece of this. So then we have these active situations. We have protesters there, and we've seen protesters and we've seen agitators, and these are different groups of people, right? So what is the expectation then if you're there, let's say, and I know crowd control is such a broad term, but if you are there, what is the expectation, I'll start with, of the protesters slash agitators, as far as you're concerned as officers? What do you expect from them so that you're not having to use force?
Well, they would not be, threatening violence or, committing a crime and that sort of thing. If there's any type of life safety issue, if they're destroying property, those types of things, that's happening on the city street. And just because ICE is there does not mean that we are not the police on that city street. So it's obviously the same things that are our job any other time are still our job in that context. But over all of that, our mission, one of our central themes that in Minneapolis, especially the last 5 years, is we want to try and de-escalate volatile situations whenever we can. And that's not just Minneapolis. I mean, that's what anyone who's a police officer in this state does. And we try and come in the middle of not just these scenes, but any other scenes that are very tense, that are charged, that high emotions on either side, and we try to get in the middle as best we can and de-escalate things. Now, unfortunately, in this context, our officers are not afforded any deference whatsoever. As soon as we show up, it's been the case that people make assumptions that we are there, to assist federal law enforcement or to enable what they're doing, and that's just not the case. We are there for a specific reason to try and protect people's lives in our community. That's everybody that's on our city street, and to try and de-escalate situations. I mean, I am afraid that we could have a tragedy happen over this stuff and then have a situation dramatically escalate. And this has caused a lot of instability in the city. And anytime you have this type of instability, it is an environment that is ripe for bad actors to come in and exploit and commit crimes. And that is exactly what I do not want to happen.
Mm-hmm. Do you see a world where, so we had Chief Axel Henry on last week, and I asked him about communication, and clearly they're in the same boat where they don't assist federal law enforcement in these operations. However, he is actively working on some sort of a communications strategy. His goal is to minimize the risk of people getting swept up, people getting hurt, bystanders, that kind of thing. Would you be open to a system of communication with the federal authorities that would help minimize this?
So we work with federal law enforcement in Minnesota every day around, illegal guns, gangs, people that are committing shootings, all those types of things. That's our job. We have relationships with all the different federal agencies, with the people who live in Minnesota. And those federal law enforcement officers from all of those agencies that live here are professional, and they care about our state. I have seen just in this short period of time that there has been a lot of, at best, misinformation. That when calls have come in and that when our people have tried to do a callback or try and verify, at best, it seems like people in charge don't seem to know what's actually happening on the street. And
people in charge federally, locally, or federal government?
Whoever is running this stuff, I don't even know. And it seems like, I know in my own experience as the police chief, a difficulty I've had to overcome is to get accurate information about what's happening on the street. What are officers actually doing? What's actually going on in the street? That is a challenge in any law enforcement agency. And I think just from the things that I'm hearing from our lieutenants, from our officers, it definitely seems like that is a challenge with what is happening here.
Okay. Can we talk about due process for a minute? Because obviously this is a big concern for a lot of people, and you talk about people showing up at these scenes and calling. You urge people to call 911 a couple of weeks ago. Explain to us what due process should look like in these types of situations. Help us understand.
Yeah. So just to make sure people are clear, talking about calling 911 is when someone is there that's armed or that's claiming that they're law enforcement, and someone isn't sure if they are or not. And that is a real concern. And it's not just because of what happened to Melissa Hortman, her family, and others in this state who were murdered by someone posing as the police. It's also because 2 or 3 months ago, the FBI put out a law enforcement bulletin saying that there were people committing violent crimes in cities around the country that were posing as ICE. And it urged ICE to better identify themselves during law enforcement operations. And so that's not just something I came up with, that's something the FBI has been recommending. And in addition, I know that we have had calls from people who are insured. In some cases, we've responded, and it turns out it was federal law enforcement. In other cases, it turns out it wasn't. It was someone with a gun. And so, we've had it happen both ways, and I've even had someone just this week tell me that they had a phone call over someone on the phone claiming to be ICE, saying we won't come if you'll send us money, like a scam. So obviously, again, when you create this much instability, this much fear, there are definitely criminals and bad actors that are looking to try and take advantage of the situation, and that's what I was trying to communicate.
I see. And the identity piece of it is interesting too, because you know, we talked again with St. Paul Police Chief Henry about this, and you know, when his officers were there, they'd thrown on jackets and maybe didn't have time to rip their name off and put it on the jacket, and there were questions around, well, why aren't we identifying who's who here? But the federal agents also, you know, there are fears of doxing, and their jobs are very complicated too, because they are also under attack in many. As a law enforcement officer, how do you balance that with also, you have a community to protect as well?
Yeah, you know, I am certain there are good law enforcement officers, good cops that are involved in these operations. I am sure that there's good people in all of these agencies, absolutely. And I also know one of the local federal agents here from a different agency also had the same thing happen. They were photographed and it was put on social media, and by the evening they were identified and their family and so on. So it is a very difficult situation because the reality is those types of things are happening. But I just think that the larger issue is so much of the community, so much of the American public clearly views how things are happening, how things are being done as the problem. Again, not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it that's creating all this instability. And that's not good for public safety, for anyone.
You know, the political theater, and I think most people understand that there is a certain amount of political theater involved in any of these big issues. You know, it's tough. Your position is not a political position. Obviously, you're appointed, but oftentimes you are standing up there next to a mayor who is very passionate about drawing lines around no ICE zones and saying, ICE, you are not welcome here. I'm curious, you know, you stand there, so it looks like a united front, but are there nuances in how you feel about ICE being here? Is it kind of like a no-go zone, like you're not welcome here, or
no? I
is
mean,
it different?
of course, there's nuance. I just said there are good people in all of these agencies, and you know, just talking to people informally, I can tell you there's plenty of federal law enforcement that are a part of our community that live in this state. That agree with exactly what we're saying, that they think things should be done differently.
One of the things that Board Czar Tom Homan had talked about was, he said, hey, we want to go into the prisons and the jails, and we want to try to, you know, deport people who are criminals already in jail, who are here illegally, and deport them from the jails. But he's saying that they don't get communication, they don't get cooperation from local authorities. If something like that was posed here, you know, in Hennepin County, is that something that you personally could get behind?
It's something that I have no authority over whatsoever. There's no city lockup, there's no city jail in Minneapolis, or I don't think anywhere in Minnesota, but in the Twin Cities anyway. The jail is run by the county sheriffs and the state prisons under the Department of Corrections. So that has nothing to do with local police.
Yeah, but how would you feel about something like that? Would you support something like that if it happened?
That's up to the sheriffs, and that's up to the Commissioner of Corrections. That's not something we have a role in at all.
Yeah. Okay, what is this focus, this heavy focus on ICE operations doing to the rest of the things that need to get done in your department?
It's unfortunately, again, all of the instability is just a distraction. It's a drain on resources. All of the ancillary issues that are happening. Well, we already have a depleted police department that we are trying to rebuild, that we have made incredible progress, both trying to reduce crime, trying to rebuild, and in some cases build relationships with community that were never there, and trying to restaff the police department as quickly as possible. This is a stress on the individual officers. They are not looking to have to go to someone else's scene to then become the object of vitriol and hate, just trying to do their job. It's one additional thing that the cops have to deal with now that they wish they didn't. We have our own problems to deal with.
What are the resources like for that emotional support for them? I mean, we saw this post George Floyd, right? You've been down these roads before.
Yep.
What does it look like now for them?
It's substantially changed. There is a good investment in the officers' health and wellness. It's not enough. There needs to be more. There's a peer support team that's underway. I mean, we saw it in the aftermath of the Annunciation mass shooting. We have a staff member that's a psychologist, our health and wellness team, our peer support, all responded to the scene, and we were able to relieve, I think, all 73 initial responding officers in less than 3 or 4 hours from the scene, and able to debrief them and to put them on the track to get them some time off and to get them mental health services. And it's that type of thing that was unheard of years ago in policing. And I know more and more of our officers are seeing the health and wellness as being normalized in the profession. And that's a good thing, because a normal course of a career for a police officer, you're just seeing things repeatedly over and over again that are not normal. And it has an effect on you. And it needs to be dealt with in a healthy and productive way. We are human beings just trying to do a job.
We're going to take a quick break if you can stick around, and we'll come back. There are some other topics that we wanted to discuss with you as well. We know yesterday there were some metro high schools that were shut down because of some online threats, and so there are quite a few things other than kind of the focus on ICE. So stick with us. We'll be back after a really quick break, more with Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara. All right, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara joining us here. We wanted to just circle back on some of the other topics that have been in the headlines, things that haven't gotten as much coverage because everything's been really ICE focused. But we know just yesterday we had some metro schools actually shut down for the day, and we had an incident where, and normally the media doesn't report on a lot of this stuff, as you know, because we don't want copycats, but this had a big impact. And in the day and age we live in, I think anytime you shut down schools because of threats posted online, it's a very scary thing for people. Eagan police did end up arresting a 16-year-old who's going through the process of being charged right now. I wanted to circle back on this, though, because I think in reporting all of this, we spend a lot of time talking about the threats and that kind of thing, but we don't talk a lot about the back end and catching these people, the bad actors, and then also the consequences for this. And maybe, you know, by talking about some of that, we can educate people that this isn't fun and games, you know, nothing to play with.
Yeah. Well, we have certainly had an increase in these type of swatting type incidents, but also in incidents that we refer to and threats that are made that we refer to our behavioral threat assessment team, which is something that Minneapolis didn't even have when I initially got here a little over 3 years ago. And now, I mean, it's just month after month, it's exponentially increasing the amount of cases and investigations, threats.
The resources must be shifting.
You know, we only have 2 investigators that work on this team, and they work on that team in addition to doing their normal duties, and they're linked in and connected with other agencies, FBI, you know, mental health folks, and others that can help us assess the risk around a lot of these threats, because it's been overwhelming at times.
Also yesterday in the headlines, we learned that the Attorney General Keith Ellison had settled a lawsuit with Kia and Hyundai because as you well know, for quite a stretch there, you guys were very busy following up on these thefts of these vehicles and carjackings. So where, I guess, reset for us, where are we with, you know, we hear about the Kia boys or some of these other groups that have been targeting cars and drivers?
Well, it's still not done, and it's resulted in at least 10,000 additional auto thefts than what normally would have been expected in accordance with the trend. And we had weeks where more than 2/3 or 75% at times of every car stolen in the city was either a Kia or a Hyundai. And just a couple of years ago, when I first got here, it reminded me of the 90s, just the amount of stolen cars that were being driven around, joyrided recklessly, and then just all of the people who were hurt as a result of that, people who died, and all of the other violent crimes that were enabled because these cars were so easily stolen. And we briefly had this, the manufacturer put out this software update that was supposed to fix the problem, then turns out it doesn't really. So finally there is a solution to bring these cars back to what had been standard, 20 or 30 years ago. It's kind of crazy that it took this long. But we need to reduce the opportunities for these cars to be stolen so easily, because there's so much. I mean, it's beyond the inconvenience to the owner and the expense to the owner. It's enabling, all this other harm and crime in the community.
And so this is a positive move for the future, but for now, these
Still
vehicles are still very much an issue.
I was with a city resident, with the Attorney General. His car has been stolen 9 times. I mean, if people are living on fixed incomes, they can't afford this happening once, let alone have it happen 9 times and then have their insurance rates go through the roof. It's been a lot of damage caused by manufacturers who made the conscious decision to make a little bit more money than to make their cars secure in the way that every other car that's sold in the country is.
Are we still seeing juveniles primarily as the main perpetrators here?
A lot still, but it's not as frequent as it was before.
When you and I have had conversations about juvenile crime in the city, you've often talked about the fact that it's not as sort of rampant, meaning as many people as you would think are involved. Right. We're talking about smaller groups of people. Right. Is that still the case?
Yes.
And is there progress being made there on those smaller groups?
There's progress that's been made. We've made intentional efforts to have our investigators out engaging with families at night and on the weekends, trying to build relationships with other adults that are in some of these kids' lives, and to provide some referrals where we can, to hopefully try and get things on a different path.
Okay, and just really quick,
still a challenge.
Yeah, really quickly, our Paul Loom has been covering a lot of this, but there's a new facility, money for a new facility that will house juveniles, I think up to maybe 30 days. They're too young to go to jail, too dangerous to go home, and this is going to be hopefully, easing some of that pressure and a place for them to go. I wanted to quickly ask you too about budget, which doesn't sound all that interesting, but when I asked you about it a little earlier, you kind of just gave me this look like. So what's going on? The city just passed the budget for 26. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm certainly glad that it passed, but there's going to be some significant challenges ahead over the course of the next year. So we're going to do everything that we can, but I think structurally there's some issues as we rebuild the department that just have not been adequately planned for financially in the budget. We've hired now 175 people this year alone to become police officers, but the overwhelming majority of them, we're paying their salaries and we're paying their tuition for them to go to school for a couple of years before they can go to the police academy and come out onto the street. So we're having a significant decrease in vacancy savings while still having the operational need for overtime. And overtime this year, we spent about $31 million with everything that happened in the city to try and just have minimum staffing and respond to mass shootings and ensure people are safe in the community, have public safety. Public safety costs money. Having police officers in the city costs money. And so there's a significant gap between what is budgeted for overtime, I think it's about $5.7 million, versus what the actual need in the community is, which this year was $31 million.
Before we let you go, I just, part of what we do here and the reason that we have you come in and talk to us as we do with a lot of leaders within the city is, our hope is in the process that there's kind of a human aspect here, that no matter how people feel about a political affiliation or whatever, that, there's a human aspect here. And I hope I don't put you on the spot a little bit, but I have to say, since you've been coming in, it's been almost a year now, you seem just kind of different. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you seem weighted in a way that I haven't really noticed, and I don't know you outside of these interviews at all. But can I just ask, how are you doing?
I've been better, that's for sure. I mean, I am very concerned with the instability that exists in the city right now. And I take the weight of my responsibility seriously. I take the obligation that I have to the men and women who do this job very seriously. I buried a recruit 2 weeks ago and buried a police officer that was murdered about 1.5 years ago. And all of that weighs on you. At the same time, I feel incredibly blessed that I have the opportunity to be here in this moment. I think we're doing incredibly meaningful work rebuilding this department and making the city safer. But I just pray I get to be here long enough so I can start to enjoy it at some point.
You have family that doesn't necessarily live here with you all the time. You get to see them here and there. Do you have holiday plans where you'll get to be with your family?
Yes, my family will be here for Christmas.
Okay.
So I will be here.
Okay. Thank you for being here, and you and the other leaders who are willing to come in and take all kinds of questions from all kinds of angles. We appreciate your willingness to do that very much. So
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this. All Day Live continues. Welcome back to All Day Live. Amber Milner joining us now. And earlier you brought us a letter from the head of the secretary, the head of the education department for the federal government.
Yeah,
sent a letter.
President Trump's secretary of education.
And you have
here.
An update on that?
Yeah, so I got my hands on the full letter here, and in the little blurb that I initially saw, there was no mention of education fraud.
Okay.
But in the full letter, she does really go into it here. So again, the secretary here calling for Governor Walz to resign over what they're calling the fraud crisis, the growing fraud crisis, and calling Minnesota a fraudulent hub of money laundering activity. In the letter, they say at the beginning of this year, the U.S. Department of Education became aware that fraudulent college applicants, especially concentrated in Minnesota, were gaming the federal post-secondary education system to collect money that was intended for young Americans to help them afford college. We call these fraudsters ghost students because they were not ID verified and often did not live in the U.S. or simply didn't exist. Again, all of this in a letter written from the education secretary to Governor Walz. They have some numbers in here that we have not independently verified.
Okay.
But in the letter, they say in Minnesota, 1,834 ghost students were found to have received $12.5 million in taxpayer-funded grants and loans.
Okay.
So again, that's from the Department of Ed, the education secretary, in a letter to Governor Walz, telling him that he should step down from office over
Okay.
this.
Yeah, we'll keep working on that, obviously trying to independently confirm some of those numbers. But yeah, that's the first time. I don't know. I've never heard that ghost student. I've never heard that term.
I've never heard that either.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the spotlight is on Minnesota in the
For
last
sure.
year, right? Especially over fraud allegations. We've had many discussions on air and behind the scenes about, how we're looking into this. And there are a lot of layers and different elements going into this. And we've seen it become a sticking point in many people's campaigns for office. First to mind is Speaker Demuth running for governor.
Yeah.
So it's something that a lot of people are focused on, and this here seems to be just the latest in this saga.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that update. I was wondering when that came out, we weren't saying anything specifically about education,
Yeah.
why she was specifically calling on him to resign.
Like I
but
said,
that makes
the
sense.
initial part I read was from a Fox Digital article, and I only saw like the first paragraph of
Okay.
this letter, right? And that part had no mention. It talked about welfare fraud and, other items, but that was stuff that we had seen before. And then, deeper in this letter, once I was able to get a look at that, that's when they brought up these so-called ghost students.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
grants and loans.
I'm sure we're
Yep.
back there behind me. I'm sure it's being worked on
Yeah.
right now, and
Yeah.
because it's the first I've heard of that term. All right, thanks. We'll check in with you in just a little bit. Should we talk about Nisswa now? Let's do that. So they were following this developing story in Nisswa for the last couple of weeks. Calls for the mayor to resign, and Simone Woolridge actually covered this for us last week, and then now a little bit more of a development from last night.
Yeah.
So just Jennifer Carnahan is at the center of this. She was elected mayor of Nisswa. She served as a few years as chair of the Minnesota GOP, so if you know that name. Also was married to Representative Jim Hagedorn, who passed away in 2022. So if that name is familiar, that is who's at the center. Okay,
Right,
so bring us up to speed here.
Okay, there's a lot to talk about. Okay. So if you missed last week, it kind of just continues over from last week's drama. I think we can call it at this point because there's a lot going on here. So I guess we'll start with last night, and then I can take you back just a little bit. So last night, the council did approve a few things. There were a few motions that were put forward. One of them, the council asked the city attorney to prepare a resolution of no confidence and also no contest, and I should say no contest. Excuse me, a censure vote. I should say.
Censure vote. Yes, yeah.
And to remove her from committee assignments. So that went to her attorneys to see if there was any code of conduct that would have, been, I guess, messed up by her. Like, did she mess up in any way?
Right.
They ended up saying nothing there.
Okay.
Is what she says that her attorneys say. It gets confusing.
It really does.
It all
There's so
stems from
much.
this particular incident that happened last month. There was a woman, the mayor was out, and this woman overheard her. She said she was talking loud, and the mayor, this is according to this woman, the mayor was discussing how to get rid of a sitting council member. So then the mayor then sees this woman later on, I believe in that day. They then get into some sort of argument. There was a conflict there. The mayor then accused that woman, and you might hear it in the soundbite coming up. They refer to her as Miss Foster. That's her last name. They ended up getting into some altercation. The mayor then accuses her of assault. Now, this has been dismissed twice. This woman has not been charged. So what the council is trying to say is, like, at this point, this woman has been embarrassed by a lot of, this chain of events that's happening. You're being accused of assault. This is a sitting mayor. And so this has caused a lot of disarray, between some of the sitting council members here. So they spent over 20 minutes talking about this last night. I just listened to all of that. They also welcomed public comment as well. So I think we should just maybe take a listen to because this is the first time that we have heard from Mayor Carnahan. We did reach out to her last week. She did not go to that meeting last week, that special meeting that was called. She did send us a statement last week after the meeting, but this is the first time that we have heard from her. So this is her account, a little bit of her account of why she did not attend last week's meeting, and also a little bit of her account of what happened. Let's listen to that.
When a resolution conflicts with the Constitution always prevails. And last time I checked, we were living in America, not communist China. And I am very proud to be living in America. Accordingly, any censure or similar symbolic action, again, whether it's done tonight or in January, does not establish policy or accountability, prolonging this process only consumes taxpayer time, staff time, and resources, which is not what I believe our community expects from us on this council. So I believe it is time for us to move forward, get back to business at hand, and put these disputes to the side. And so that is why I was not here Wednesday. Councilmember Fraley, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I was just wondering why you didn't reach out to the young lady when she sent the email to you and have a discussion with her and possibly Councilmember Zahn, who, according to this young lady, the conversation was on how to humiliate him and have him resign from office. Why didn't you reach out to her and sit down and talk?
I'm not going to get into a tit for a tat or a he said or she said. There were certain people at the meeting that I was at, which was to talk about the 2026 budget. And another topic of conversation was the local option sales tax, and explaining that and how some residents and business owners met. So I'd like to keep focused on business at hand and not get into down in the weeds on this.
But you didn't answer my question.
I respectfully decline.
All right.
Councilmember London.
My question would be the same as Councilman Fraley's about what occurred and why did it occur.
I don't think people can hear you.
That'd be my question. The same thing as Councilman Fraley is what happened at the business in Brainerd when you had these conversations with your companions about Councilman Zahn.
Yeah, and again, I've put out a press statement on that, and I've shared my perspective here, so I don't have anything to add at this point. I think it's better to keep focused. We have a full agenda to focus on the actually doing the city's business tonight. Councilmember Zahn.
I think this is a part of the city's business. It's not the most desirable thing to have to talk about, but accountability has to be discussed. Otherwise, well, what separates elected officials from their dual hats as citizens and council members or mayors? I'm going to clarify one thing in regards to a comment you made, Mayor Carnahan, that I don't think that this is even remotely close to personal for anybody up here. And I want to be very clear with that. It's the conduct of a sitting mayor in the general public, regardless of who was talked about, it was heard per that email and per the statement, not just by one, but multiple employees of that business and multiple customers of that business. It was brought through the proper channel to an email directly to you. And Councilmember Hall was included on that email. Not sure why, but he was. That was an opportunity to be able to respond to that, to Ms. Foster in regards to why you felt it was appropriate to discuss those specific items in regards to trying to, quote, embarrassing me and perhaps I will then resign. I don't take any personal stab at that. It is what it is.
Yeah, so that was Councilmember Zahn, and last week Councilmember Zahn requested her resignation. She then, in the meeting last night, she doubled down and said that she will not, and that's what she said in her statement to us last week. She said she has no plans on resigning. She says that the city of Nisswa, they elected her to be mayor, and that's where she will stay.
Okay,
So,
and we've reached out to her since last night as well?
I reached out to her this morning, maybe a couple of hours ago, on 2 email addresses. So I have not heard back yet, but I just wanted to see if she had any comment after last night's meeting, and also an interview request as well.
All right, we'll continue to follow it. Thanks for breaking that down for us. Appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, All Day Live continues after this. Welcome back to All Day Live. Let's listen in now because we've got head coach PJ Fleck of the Golden Gophers, the head football coach, talking ahead of the Rate Bowl against New Mexico next Friday, day after Christmas. Let's listen.
Good tacklers. They fly to the football. They've had a really special year, and you can see why they had a special year. They won some really close games. They blew out UCLA at the Rose Bowl. I mean, this team has played at an incredibly high level all year. So well coached, very disciplined. They play as one on defense. They all know how the back end affects the front affects the back end, and they play that way.
Speaking of evolving, you got an assistant coach opening. Historically, you've waited to AFCA's January 12th-ish. Portal opens the 2nd. Do you have kind of a timeline for evolving how you want to view assistant hires this year?
Yeah, I mean, you have a vision, but you really take day by day. You do, especially this time because there's so much going on. You kind of put some of those things, not necessarily on the back burner because you're working on it as you work on the portal, as you work on your players, as you work on bowl prep, as you work on the negotiations and the contracts with your players. And, their free agency is right around the corner. So it's a unique time. And then we go out recruiting as well in January. So you put that on top of the portal and then the official visits on top of that as well. As you can see, Mike, this is what I mean. It's very unique. But we'll have a plan of how we keep moving forward with coaches.
PJ, how do you look at kind of the future of bowl games? Obviously, that's a hot topic with teams turning them down, and kind of you guys have put an emphasis on it.
Yeah, I think everybody has their own views on bowl games. I think every program will. I think every circumstance is completely different. We love bowl games. I love playing in bowl games. I grew up watching bowl games. I was part of a team that went 10-2 at Northern Illinois and didn't go to a bowl game. It's amazing how fast that has changed, right? And that was back in 2000 and I have no idea, four, something like that. You think about how fast in 20 years that has changed, where a 10-2 team didn't go to a bowl game, and now here we are, and people say, we have so many bowl games. It's all about the student-athlete experience, and part of that is when we talk about the negotiations and contracts and business and agents, and that's part of the experience. It's a new part of the experience. That's what you have to adapt to. So, I love bowl games. We've always have here at the University of Minnesota. I think it gives you extra time to be able to work on your team for the future celebration of our seniors in 25. I'm not in charge of what happens to bowl games as they go forward, but I think everybody sees trajectory of how that could be. But what does it look like? And I think there's a lot of people who have to answer a lot of questions that make it really good for college football, because saying that, bowl games are dead and taking bowl games away, I don't think is very healthy. I don't. I'm a huge advocate of bowl games. So how we structure them from here on out and what that looks like and what conferences team up to do it, I think could be really interesting as we move forward.
Why is it important?
And a lot of fun. Fun. How about fun? Anybody hear that word, fun? Fun? It's a great time. Fun. Football's still fun. Don't forget it.
And going out as early as you can as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thankful to our administration.
From this now to the state capitol, where there are some families, also providers, who are, they say, confronting Medica's cut to care for children with medical complexities. So let's listen to this for a bit.
These nurses also manage life-sustaining equipment that these children rely on every day, including ventilators, feeding pumps, and more. This imposition of a coverage cap is not a small policy adjustment. It's a dramatic reduction that substantially eliminates medically necessary care for children. It puts families in an impossible position. In short, it puts our pediatric population in risk. For more than 15 years, Minnesota lawmakers, healthcare professionals, families have worked together to remove barriers and increase access to appropriate levels of care. Together, we have created an ecosystem that helps medically complex children avoid unnecessary hospitalizations. The intent has been clear: where care can be safely provided at home, these children should be at home with their families. This interpretation reverses that progress. It reintroduces barriers to safe discharges, destabilizes care for families, and shifts children into a far more expensive setting. Not because of medical need, but because of coverage limits. We have asked both Medica and the Minnesota Department of Commerce for clarity and answers. Families have filed written complaints. Providers have raised concerns. Yet, frustratingly, we have not received any meaningful responses, and state agencies have declined to intervene. Today, you'll hear from families whose children are impacted. You'll hear from healthcare professionals who understand the medical realities. You'll also hear from a legislator who, alongside many colleagues, has worked for years to ensure Minnesota prioritizes access to home-based care. This isn't about special treatment. It's about access to medically necessary care. It's about patient safety. It's about honoring long-standing policy commitments to Minnesota's most vulnerable children. Thank you for being here today. We look forward to hearing from several of our speakers, and I'll now turn it over to Brandon and, importantly, Emily, to share about their son's Chase. Emily.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. My name is Emily Walter, and I am here speaking on behalf of my 4-year-old son, Chase. Chase was born in 2021 with a rare craniofacial syndrome. At 5 days old, we were told he needed a tracheostomy, which is a life-saving breathing tube, in order to survive. For anyone who does not know what a tracheostomy is, it is a hole in your airway and a tube that remains in place so that you can breathe. Due to his diagnosis, Chase is also dependent on a feeding tube and is deaf with bilateral hearing loss. Because of these medical complexities, Chase cannot go to daycare and needs one-on-one 24-hour hospital-level care provided by either a skilled RN or a trained parent. Thankfully, due to the ability of our nursing agency to staff nurses in our home, we were able to bring Chase home after 7 weeks in the hospital. However, many children remain in the hospital for much longer due to barriers preventing them from going home. Chase has had a private plan through Medica since he was born. His physicians have prescribed him 84 hours of nursing coverage per week, and his diagnosis has not changed, nor his need for nursing. Thus far, thanks to our home care nurses and insurance coverage, both my husband and I have been able to continue working. Because of his medical complexities, Chase is far more vulnerable and susceptible to respiratory illness, and it can escalate quickly and land him in the hospital, as it did just this past February. When Chase is sick, he often requires 8 or 9 medications given around the clock, 4 to 6 times per day, and sometimes requires him to be on oxygen. But thanks to the home care nurses and interventions they can provide, we can treat many of his illnesses at home and avoid hospitalization. If Chase's nursing coverage is not covered by Medica, then our family and families like ours will have to make many tough decisions, including giving up services, therapies, and access to additional medical equipment and other things insurance does not cover, reduce our hours of nursing coverage in order to preserve precious waiver dollars for these services, or make a difficult decision to not be employed and stay home with our child in order to preserve nursing hours. Up to this point, Medica has been covering these nursing services prescribed by Chase's doctors. I'll now hand it off to my husband, Brandon, to walk you through what we've endured over the past year.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For about a year, Medica has been threatening to deny Chase's home care nursing coverage through letters and phone calls, and just a few weeks ago, we received a formal denial letter for 2026. We repeatedly asked Medica for answers and did not receive them. We firmly believe Medica is in direct violation of Minnesota State Statute 62Q.545. The statute has been established for many years and has not changed. The statute is very clear. Home care nursing services must be covered under the commercial plan, in this case, Medica. For persons who are concurrently covered by both old in a Minnesota fully insured individual commercial plan through Medica, and he also qualifies for and is enrolled in Minnesota Medical Assistance. He checks all of those boxes. We submitted a formal complaint to the Minnesota Department of Commerce in early September 2025. And even though we've been informed that our complaint has been escalated, Commerce has failed to intervene. We, as consumers in the state of Minnesota, rely on the Minnesota Department of Commerce to protect consumers and enforce established statutes. And up to this point, Commerce has done neither of those for our son. To this date, no one has been able to tell us how Medica is not violating that statute. Many families also rely on medical assistance waivers to help cover other essential supports that can make it possible for our children to live safely at home. If nursing care is pushed onto medical assistance funding, families are forced to use waiver dollars meant for other critical services like therapies, personal care, and community supports. This doesn't just hurt families, it shifts costs elsewhere in the healthcare system and increases long-term expense to the state. We're here today to give Medica another opportunity to comply with the Minnesota state statute, and we're giving the Minnesota Department of Commerce a similar opportunity to act on our escalated complaint and enforce the established statute now. We are prepared to contest Medica's policy to the highest possible platform, not only for Chase, but for similar individuals requiring critical service and for the taxpayers of Minnesota. We are speaking out because our children cannot advocate for themselves. Please protect our medically complex children. Thank you. I'll pass it off to Kaylee for a few words. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for being here today, for providing us this opportunity to speak and advocate for our children. My son will be 9 in February. His name is Mace. Mace was born with a very rare genetic mutation in a gene called the FOX2B gene. This genetic mutation not only affected the nerve cells in most of his bowel, so my son cannot survive and thrive through simply eating. He would starve to death because his gut is so short. My son is dependent on IV nutrition, and we depend on our home care nurses to help ensure that central IV line, which is a permanent IV, remains clear of infection, and that he remains safe and that he can grow and thrive. And that genetic mutation also caused a lack of nerve cells in his brain that regulates breathing. So every time my son falls asleep, he dies. He dies in his sleep. He is dependent on a ventilator to stay alive. And Minnesota law is that a child on a ventilator must have awake care. So we do rely on nurses to be awake overnight in our home every night to ensure that my child does not die while he sleeps. If these home care hours were cut, that would leave myself as a single mom to somehow work the current 6 part-time jobs that I work to ensure I can be home for both my children, but I would also now be left to somehow stay awake essentially around the clock to ensure my child doesn't die, or worse, a lot of these children will end up being forced to live in the hospital. And I can tell you firsthand how difficult that is on families, how difficult it is for siblings, the financial burden of trying to feed yourself while you're down there and keep your mental health intact. And it's a big deal what this company is doing. We need to hold these big corporations accountable. It is unrealistic, and they are misunderstanding the burden that they are placing on our state and on our tax dollars. So thank you for this time, and please help us advocate for our children.
Okay, sorry, it's Dr. Kurchak. Yes, I'm so sorry. Dr. Kurchak?
I'm not sure I can expand too much on your comments. They're both accurate and moving. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy you all are here. It's by coincidence that last week I attended a high school play, A Christmas Carol, and Scrooge was a senior who at age 2 was discharged with a tracheostomy and a ventilator. His performance, it was flawless. But the question today is, what would have happened to that toddler, now young man, had he not had the opportunity to have had continuous skilled nursing to support him during his ventilatory requirements through early childhood? What would have happened to that boy? For certain, he would have been in the hospital for at least 5 to 6 more months. Other children, it's more than 2 years. And being in the hospital, yeah, it costs more, but a lot of the costs are not financial. For sure, his parents would have struggled. Trying to be down at the hospital every day, dual working parents, well, there are heroes in our society, but we don't have to breed them by not supporting them. If he had been in the hospital, he might have been one of those few kids who acquired a hospital infection. As hard and as good as our children's hospitals work and are, they are a scourge. Hospital-acquired pneumonias, hospital-acquired diarrhea, hospital-acquired skin breakdown. These things are realities. And some might say, well, it could happen in the home. We'll get to that. The other thing that happens in the hospital are medication errors, safety events. And again, I have great confidence in our children's hospitals. But the longer you're there, the more likely you're going to experience something untoward. So, why doesn't it happen at home? It's simple. The parents are at home. The parents are continually at home. And they don't do the care. They conduct the care. They direct when cares are done. They sort out the nuances that support their child. There's none of the rotating providers that occurs in the hospital. Yes, we may have a new nurse every 12 hours, but we have continuous oversight by parents, which fashions an excellence of care that just can't be duplicated in the hospital. The second question is, what would have happened to these parents had they not had continuous skilled home care nursing? What would have happened to them? It's a source of dark humor, and you'll have to excuse me, that periodically parents would say, I'm not waiting for nursing. We're taking our kid home. Trach and ventilator. And I would look at one of the nurses and we would smile behind their back and we would say, maybe 2 weeks. We'll give them 2 weeks. And we would give them the requisite skills to resuscitate and call 911. That's not skilled nursing support. That's parent training. Resuscitate, call 911. Well, now you're back where you started. So invariably, when parents try to do this on their own, it's impossible. It's a safety not issue. It's a continual safety crisis from the point of view of a physician. One of these parents would have had to drop their career or their career trajectory, and it's usually the person who doesn't have the best insurance. So there ain't a choice there. The parent who has the better insurance, they go to work. Would they have chosen to have had a second child after the difficulties they had with this first, if we had added on to that the problem of not having that child home? Would issues of resentment emerge, guilt emerge, anger emerge? These are very real phenomena in people who are being stressed. I would simply say that there are a lot of things we can point to in healthcare that don't work. This works. This works really well. We ought not to put this on the list of broken healthcare problems that we all face in our families. Thank you for what you do. You know, parents that go through this, what I have learned is they create a ripple in their community. People point to them because they are inspired, they are admired, and we are all elevated by what you are able to accomplish for your children. And so, thank you for that. Let's continue doing what we have been doing successfully for over a decade now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Representative Erin Cagle. I represent Fridley, Hilltop, Columbia Heights, and Spring Lake Park. And when I hear your guys' stories, you know, it really brings me back to the care that my late niece got while she was still alive. She was one of these complex medical cases. And as Minnesotans, we care about our kids. Our Minnesota values call for us to take care of these children. And for more than 15 years, Minnesotans have worked across party lines to ensure that children with complex medical needs, like my niece and like their children, can get the care they can receive care safely at home rather than being unnecessarily brought to the hospital. It's a process getting those kids to the hospital, and it's not easy. And they're usually not there for a few hours in an ER. These policies that we've worked at remove barriers to hospital discharge, support families, and reduce resiliency on costly inpatient care. And the legislature's intent has always been clear. Medically necessary care should be determined by a physician and the care professionals and not by insurance companies limiting mandated care to save money. These families are paying their premiums, but are not getting the care that they are expecting. These policy shifts care away from the home, but they don't reduce spending. They move the cost to more expensive and increase pressure on hospitals. These private insurance companies are pushing the cost onto taxpayers. We're not advocating for a new benefit mandate. Minnesota already has the necessary coverage, already mandated the necessary coverage years ago with legislation prioritizing access to home-based care for medically complex children. Today, we are concerned that those laws are no longer being obeyed, putting care of children at risk. We are calling for transparency, accountability, and immediate correction to ensure Minnesota's longstanding policies commitments are upheld. Private insurance seems unwilling or unable to provide all Minnesotans with affordable quality care. This is a symptom of the overall problem of private entities providing government services without any accountability to taxpayers. We have broken healthcare promises. We need to stop dividing people. We need to stop dividing them on income, on race, on religion, on sexuality, and whether you are healthy or not. We need to stop dividing insurance risk pools. We need a one risk pool so that we can share the cost for everyone. We need to stop the legal skimming of insurance companies off of taxpayers. We need to get the middleman out and go. We need to provide services directly to providers so that we are able to get the care that we need to the children that need it. And it's not just the children that are affected by this. My cousin also is affected by this, although he's not as complex as a lot of your kids. You know, his home services are being cut, life skills are being cut. And so we're gonna have a lot of people out there that are gonna need our help. And to me, it just seems like the private companies, the private industry is not willing or unable to provide the care that we all expect. And so I want to thank you families for coming here today and raising the issue, because I know how much it takes just to get somebody to come into your house and look after your kiddo while you're here. So I know it took a lot of energy to get here, and sharing your story is not easy, but we're here to fight for you guys. So, thank you.
Okay, so they focus on children with complex medical issues and the cuts that they say that are being done by Medica. We are going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, Jennifer McDermott is going to give us a look at our forecast, and then we'll continue on with some more headlines. And then Max Fuller's here to talk about some sports with us as well. How about those Wild? Man, so fun. That and much more coming up here on All Day Live. Stay with us.
today. Welcome back to All Day Live. I'm meteorologist Jennifer McDermott. We're going to break down what we are expecting for weather for the rest of the week. We do have a little bit of rain on the way. I know it sounds weird because we've been dealing with snow lately, and now that we're getting closer to Christmas, we have a chance for rain showers. So here we go. Through the night, temperatures stay rather mild, warm for this time of the year, 39 for a temperature, and then rain showers off and on, and winds from our southwest at 15 to 30, gusting perhaps closer to 40 miles an hour throughout the day, or throughout the overnight rather. By tomorrow afternoon, our temperatures will be falling. So we'll reach a daytime high of 32 degrees by around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and then after that our temperatures just take a big tumble. So kids heading off to the bus stop tomorrow, it's going to feel like a nice warm winter day, but as they head home from school, it'll feel a lot different because a cold front passes through, and that's going to kick up our winds from the northwest, gusting up to 40 to 50 plus miles an hour, and it's going to usher in that colder air mass, so falling to a temperature in the low teens by around 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. Winds from our northwest at about 15 to 30 sustained miles an hour, again gusting anywhere from 40 to 50 to some locations close to 60 miles an hour. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. 33 is our current temperature right now, feels more like 25. It's a nice comfortable day for December standards. 32 in New Richmond, 33 right now in Alexandria. Winds kicking on up from the south, sustained anywhere from 10 to 20 miles an hour. But after that cold front passes through tomorrow, wind advisory for everybody to the south of 94, and that's because winds are expected to gust up to 50. Extreme southwest Minnesota, winds gusting up to 60 miles an hour. Right now, partly cloudy skies with a few flurries trying to join us. But this guy right here, this warm front will bring us rain overnight, and then the cold front whips on through, and that's going to drive in our next chance for snow come tomorrow afternoon. It's looking very, very light. Hey, stay with us here on All Day. We'll be back right after this short break.
Okay, welcome back. Oh, I don't know if we can show that. Oh, sorry. I don't know. Are we? Wait, or no, wait, do we all get new MacBooks now?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, well, get that down. Yeah.
This isn't an Apple, this is a pear, by the way. This is a bootleg one.
Okay,
this is a bootleg one, yeah.
Sure.
Teamwork.
Max Fuller is here to talk a little sports with us. Before we dive into that, Kevin O'Connell just held his weekly media availability, and we just got some injury updates here. So it sounds like Christian Darrisaw, day-to-day. Tell me if you heard that before. Yeah. And then Jonathan Grenard and Josh Metellus out for the season. Both doing a little shoulder surgery now that it's kind of like we're coasting.
Hopefully they can heal up quick. I mean, obviously the season's kind of a wash at this point. You just plan for pride and maybe, personal incentives in the contracts and whatnot. But Jonathan Grenard, I mean, just one of the best dudes. Not just one of the best players on the Vikings, one of the best dudes on the team. Joins the power chip every Tuesday, and he's just, awesome. I mean, just a ray of sunshine and very open and honest. He likes to, tease meat sauce about saying they're going to lose 100-0 every single week. And so he's in on the bid. He just seems like a really good dude. And Josh Metellus, I mean, you guys can see it in the social media videos.
Oh,
He's one of the leaders.
Tell us with Metellus.
Of that team. And I love that bit. It's such a good bit.
He's the only one that can go in there and ask those like cringy questions that nobody else could ask.
Most people would be like, what?
Exactly.
And get like
that's inappropriate.
Big guys like JJ and Jets to be a part of it. So he's obviously a leader of the team. So obviously it's a moral blow to the team, but they're just kind of trying to get to week 17.
Yeah, limping along.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Twins really quick because we have an announcement here about this new the limited partnerships with the ownership group. So it sounds like this is a deal that keeps the Pohlads in control of the decisions, but they have some outside stakeholders. An interesting one. Craig Leopold.
Yeah. One of the Wild, the owner of the Minnesota Wild, he's part of one of these minority investment groups in the business sense, not like the diversity sense. The Max Fuller Foundation is not a part of these minority investment groups buying these.
Just took a pass on it this time.
Yeah, I took a pass on it. I consulted my guys. I was like, maybe later. But they sold over 20% of the team. I think they said it was around for like $1.75 billion. But obviously the headline is the Pohlads remain firmly in control. I believe what I read this morning is that Tom Pohlad, the older brother of Joe Pohlad, he's going to be taking more of a role in the Twins' day-to-day operations. Joe was kind of the day-to-day guy. He's stepping away from that. So the Pohlads remain firmly in control, but this clears up a ton of debt. The Twins were in like $500 million worth of debt, and that was one of the reasons that prospective buyers were kind of a little hesitant. And obviously, the Pohlads kind of, their games that they're playing didn't help either, but that was one of the huge reasons that a lot of buyers were like, I don't know if I want to, how am I going to make money off of this team that's $500 in debt, dealing with TV issues and so on and so forth. So it kind of sounds like this helps clear up the debt, makes the Twins instantly able to be more competitive from a financial standpoint on paper.
Allegedly.
You still have to sign the players. The Fox has learned you still have to sign players.
So you get out of debt, to a certain extent, but then what money's left to actually invest?
Yeah, now we're at zero. Yay!
All right.
But it also sounds like this doesn't, like none of the minority ownership groups, there's no path for them to become like full-time owners through this deal, but this deal does kind of set the stage for when the Pohlads do eventually want to fully let go of the team.
All right, so let's talk about something that so many people are excited about, which is the Minnesota Wild. You were saying it earlier, and you were saying this feels different.
It's different. Like, I know we've been excited about the Wild, and they've been good before, but this, it always felt like that kind of Minnesota sports excitement where you're like, they're good, but in the back of your head, it's like, I know how this ends. I've seen
When's
this
the
movie
other
a
shoe
million. Right, exactly. Oh, this guy's fine. I know, but it's not. This guy's still firmly in the sky right now. It's up in the air.
And who's holding it up?
Quinn Hughes! Quinn Hughes and Kirill Kaprizov. They won 5-0 yesterday against the Capitals. And just, records after records. Kirill set the record for most power play goals in franchise history now, I believe at 70. And with his third shutout, Gustafsson, he's tied for second in the league in shutouts. You know who he's behind?
No.
Jasper Wallstedt. The other Minnesota Wild.
Did you say Gustafsson? Have I been saying it wrong this whole time?
How do I say it? Is it Gustafsson?
The Gus Bus, right?
Oh, I thought it was Gustafsson.
No, I like where you went with it,
I think that adds more panache.
Yeah, it
makes it sound more like, power. Gustav. Like, if you hear like, oh, Gustav's coming, it's like, okay, I can take that guy.
There's a million Gustafssons around here.
Gustav is coming. It's like. So those are the two leaders in shutouts in the whole league for the NHL. So they've just been, this is their fifth win in a row. Yeah. I think I read today they're 17-3-2 since November.
Incredible.
That's absolutely incredible. They're unstoppable.
If you would have said in October, this team is going to go on just a heater in the next 2 months, people would have been like,
yeah. Even though the rubiest of rubes wouldn't have said that. And they're doing it all while their defensive unit is basically playing on crutches at this point. They lost Damon Hunt yesterday, and he's added to a list that includes Jonas Brodin, Zach Bogosian, Jake Middleton. All those guys from the defensive unit are all dealing with injuries, and then they lost Damon Hunt yesterday, but they're still finding ways to not only beat teams, but shut them out and shut them down. It's so exciting, and it just feels like there's a different kind of energy and electricity at Grand Casino Arena lately.
Play again. Upcoming here.
Tomorrow
Yep.
Columbus.
6 o'clock
6 p.m. puck
tomorrow.
drop. Yeah. So
okay.
That's
and then again
super
on
exciting.
Saturday.
But it's the only bad part of all this is they're still in the Central Division, and even though they've won 5 games straight, they still remain in 3rd place in the Central Division because they're unfortunately in the same division as the Dallas Stars.
Just crazy.
And the Colorado Avalanche.
That's a good transition. 2 things we can transition on to the Wolves on. One, that because the Western Conference is the same kind of deal for the Wolves.
Crazy.
Also, Julius Randle at the game
How cool
night.
was that? That was awesome. Now that he's becoming like this ambassador for new guys coming to Minnesota.
Quinn, welcome. I should come see you.
Right, I'll come see you. And then it was like the next day, I'm here, bro. What's up? Like, what a great neighbor. What a great welcome for Quinn. I can't imagine how he must feel. And I know they really love hockey up in Vancouver where he was playing before, but this welcome, he's got to feel extra warm and special. And I know a lot of people are a little hesitant. Is he going to re-sign? How do you not feel like, obviously that's way down the road, but how do you not feel right now? Wow, I feel super valued. I feel super loved, and this team is just having so much freaking fun right now.
I mean, he's just clicking.
Yeah,
just
right
out
away.
The gate. So that's fun. All right, so let's talk Wolves here.
Yeah.
They play tonight, the Memphis Grizzlies, and we were just saying within the last 30-45 minutes, John Morant has been downgraded to doubtful for tonight. So the plot thickens a little bit there.
Yeah, and they have not been. I mean, they haven't really been very good with John Morant this season. They've been even worse without John Morant this season. And meanwhile, has been upgraded to questionable. With his right foot soreness. If I had to guess, if I was a gambling man, I would say maybe take Ant out today, a low stakes kind of game, and you for sure want him ready for Friday when they take on the reigning champs, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Is that here or is that wait? Let me look.
I believe that is here. It is here.
Okay, so we got the home crowd.
Center. Yes.
All right, get out there
it should be a lot of fun. That's not just a measuring stick. This is a team that just waxed you in the playoffs last year. If you want to have some confidence moving forward, because if you're going to make a playoff run, you're more than likely going to run into this team. This is a huge win. Even though it's a regular season game, this is a huge game for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
What's been interesting about the Wolves too is that they really rise to those tough games, and they're right there beating them, or they're right there.
It's those closers.
But then it's then it's the other games where you're like, oh, we should be able to beat the Grizzlies, and then you're like, what is happening?
What's happening? Yeah, these are the games you worry about more than the Oklahoma City Thunder games.
I mean, they can usually kick it into gear, right? My grandma's like, they're a fourth quarter team, and just wait for the fourth quarter, and she's usually right. They usually come around.
That kind of has been their MO this season.
What's going on with that? Just not getting the firepower right at the gate.
Don't know. It's hard to say like, oh, they're just not locked in or whatever, but it kind of does feel like it's like, I always compare it to like when you're playing a video game with your friends and you're just like not taking it very seriously, and then you're down a lot, and then you're like, oh, hold up, bro, and you gotta lean forward, and you're like, no, it ain't going down like that. It ain't going down like that. So that's kind of, it feels like they know they're talented enough to flip that switch, but sometimes because of the inconsistencies, you can't just flip that switch. Even teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder can't just flip that switch. You know, only the upper echelon teams do that. So we've got to find a way to harness that fourth quarter energy throughout all four quarters, because they're going to need it if they want to beat the Thunder, but not to overlook the Memphis Grizzlies.
Not to overlook them, for sure. All right, we're going to take it to break. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
More Bones Highland. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
We need more of that.
He's the best. Did you see that video of him singing last night?
I did. Couldn't fall asleep.
He's the best.
So good.
Ever.
So good. All right, we got a break. We'll be right back. Thanks, Max, for stopping in. We'll talk to you later. All right, welcome back to All Day Live. We got some friends here in the studio because we were talking about a big announcement for the Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame. We got some chills there. We're going to talk about a new location, but I want to introduce you to our friends here. Andrew Height, president of the Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having
and of course, we have Natalie Darwitz, a two-time Olympic silver medalist, member of the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame as well. Last time we talked to you guys, I think it was at the State Fair, maybe, was it? Yeah. Dawn had you guys, and we got to kind of talk a little bit about this, and it's just been so exciting. First out of the gate, though, can we differentiate between the Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame and the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame? Because I think that comes up a lot, right?
Yeah, that does. So the U.S. Hall of Fame is what it is. It is the whole United States. So actually, they just had their induction ceremony. Zach Parisi, a Minnesota native, went in. So he goes into that U.S. Hall of Fame, as well as there was a East Coaster, there was a player from Massachusetts that went in. They all go up to Evelyn.
Okay.
We are the Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame, so Minnesota only, born and raised here.
Yeah.
We are highlighting our great state in the sport of ice hockey. So there's a big difference. Obviously, the U.S. Hall of Fame, we love our hockey, so that's why it's held here at Evelyn.
Yeah.
But we just announced our location in Inver Grove Heights, and we're super excited about that. So big differentiation, but hockey's hockey, and we support each other. We want to lift up the game in any way we can. So
absolutely, a lot of crossover there, but also loving the focus on Minnesota. Andrew, let's pull up if we can the rendering here, you guys, if we have it. Tell us what we need to know. So Inver Grove Heights is where we're looking here. Yeah.
Yes. So we made our public announcement of the project back in August, and the level of support and excitement we received was unbelievable. And now that we have an official location, it is even more real, I guess you could say. So yeah, the facility is 120,000 square feet plus. It will have a 5-wing museum with a great hall, plus a one-of-a-kind ice rink that we hope to host youth tournaments, high school spotlight games, other collegiate level games, and then a performance hall too. One of our main reasons why we built such a big facility was because we want to create a community hub to celebrate hockey, celebrate Minnesota, and really build that community up, because as we all know, hockey is such a tight-knit community. And with the induction ceremony, as everyone is excited for, we want to create an experience that is on our campus from start to finish.
Where are we with a timeline, you guys?
Yeah, so right now we are still on pace. As we made the announcement in August, we said we're moving at warp speed, and we haven't slowed down. So we made our location today, and we're in the development phases now, and we will break ground in 2026.
Wow.
And the doors will open in 2028, and we'll cut the ribbon.
Wow, that is fast. When you look at that rendering, Natalie, I mean, just what's going through your mind and how are you feeling?
It's exciting. It gives you goosebumps. I wish we grew up with something like this. As Andrew mentioned, we want to make a community for hockey, and that building encompasses it all. We want to have young players come in there and be inspired. We want to celebrate the past, and then we want to build up the present moment and have hockey throughout our doors and have hockey throughout our building. As Andrew said, we are the fabric of hockey in our blood in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And so we want to highlight that and have a one-stop shop to do that. And we're so lucky right now that we finally have a place to call home. We were kind of a team on paper, and now with it having a location, now we have a home. So.
Tell me about some of because I think we just got done talking before you guys came in about the Wild and what a heater they're on right now, and there's so much excitement about them. So I think when people who maybe follow hockey in Minnesota at a top level maybe follow the Wild, but we're not. This isn't a Minnesota Wild Hall of Fame. This is, tell us about the teams and the different, we're going to talk about the Frost. We're going to talk about, high school, and tell me what else we're going to see here.
Well, I think it all starts at the grassroots level. Little boys and girls lacing up the skates. The community aspect, I just was talking to a colleague out there, her kids play for Edina. That's what people want to hear and see. That's how it started. So we're going to celebrate the grassroots level. Obviously, the high school hockey in our state, no one can compare to it in the rest of the country. The fact that we can sell out a venue of 18,000 plus is significant.
Well, you put the mullet video on a loop somewhere so that we can just keep watching that.
So high school hockey is just the biggest thing here in Minnesota, right? And people know it all across the country. Yeah. College, we have over 30 NCAA institutions in Minnesota alone. That's D1 and D3. Wow. Now you have professional. You talked about the Wild, the Frost, and all the players who have gone on to be successful and play for different teams, hoist the Stanley Cup. Yeah. And then you have international players who represent their country in the Olympics. So people are gonna, from lacing the skates up to the legends of the game, they're gonna be highlighted. But even more importantly, we want to represent the people behind the scenes, like the Zamboni drivers, the hockey moms who raise money for a second sheet of ice. Those are the unsung heroes we forget about. We want to find those stories, and the Minnesota Hockey Hall of Fame wants to be a vehicle to tell those stories and to put them under the spotlight.
Yeah. Andrew, why Inver Grove Heights, and what's your hope that it does for that community?
Yes, like I said, as we made the announcement in August, we had tremendous outreach from communities. We had 8 or 9 communities reach out and say, we want you. And as we paused and we put everyone back into a bucket, our 3 main goals were visibility, access, and location. And not only access and location in the Twin Cities market, but statewide. And we want to make sure that we're inviting everybody from tip to tip of the state to come. And so as we worked through the process with Inver Grove Heights, they really checked every box that we were looking for. And they wanted to have a transformative project in this northwest area that we landed on as well. And it's right next to 494, close to the airport, close to St. Paul, and the land is over 40 acres. So it allows us to build what we truly want and create that legacy one-stop shop.
What's the community reaction been like since you made the announcement back in August? Have people been just coming out of the woodwork with stories and I got this video, and like, have you just been inundated?
Yes, and to that point we do have an ambassador program, and we have over 150 men and women at the professional level that are supporting this project now, and we hope to be at 250 by summertime. And yes, everyone is just reaching out no matter what level they want or level they played and want to be a part of it. And you know, part of that ambassador program, as we do have the 5-Wing Museum too, is a loan and lease project. So I'm sure Natalie has a box in her parents' basement of treasures that should be highlighted. And so we're going to work with all of these ambassadors to help tell that story as well through their archived items and memorabilia.
Is there anything that's sticking out, and not to put you on the spot, but that you've come across or heard about that you just cannot wait to display or share with people?
I don't know if we want to give any nuggets on that.
Gotcha. Go and check it out.
But we can say that Kelly Brooks Paradise is our advisory board chair.
Okay.
And she might have a few unique items that end up in that in one of those wings.
Nice. So there's the museum aspect, the rinks. Tell me about the rinks that are involved here. I see from the renderings you have some hopefully outside in the winter and indoor.
Yeah. So we'll have indoor sheet of ice, which is right now a 1,300 seat facility, seats on both sides. What's unique about it is you walk in at ground level and it's sunken in. Wow. So it's the opposite of Williams Arena, where you look up to the court, you're actually looking down. So it's going to be one of a kind. We're going to have, obviously, quality of ice is going to be great. I remember growing up, Mariucci was the it rink for us, and I remember we would circle that on our squirt calendar, and we want these young boys and girls and everybody of all ages to be excited about what they get to play on the Hockey Hall of Fame rink. And we're going to have initiatives, as Andrew mentioned, with the ambassador group. How cool would it be to have, you know, Zach Parisi on one bench and Chrissy Wendell coaching another bench, you know, maybe girls, boys going against each other at might level. And so we're excited about it. You can't have a Hall of Fame without a hockey rink. At the end of the day, we want to grow the game and lift the game up and celebrate it, and what better way to have a hockey rink. There is the rendering of an outdoor sheet of ice, but that's just a pond that will freeze over naturally. Yes. So
no money being put into that.
No extra additional cost to that, other than, you know, the landscaping. So that's what we'll hope to have other auxiliary events, maybe some open skate outdoors, a Christmas market, if you will.
Nice.
So, you know, we're not only going to be a Hockey Hall of Fame, we're going to maximize what we can do in that community.
And to Natalie's point too, as we talked about the ambassador program and what we want to achieve on our sheet of ice, we are an official 501c3 too. So our goal is to, again, touch every part of the state and bring grassroots hockey education programs and other traveling museum exhibits around the whole state as well, to make sure that the whole state feels part of this. Yes, we have a home now, but truly it's all of Minnesota.
Thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate it. Amber's going to jump in here as we're wrapping the show, and how about this? Very cool stuff.
It sounds great, Amy.
I know. Very, very excited about
moment,
this.
Especially for Inver Grove Heights. Great for the community.
Yeah, really. It'll be a draw, hopefully, for a lot of people. All right, what's our out time here?
Like a couple minutes. Amy, I want to take us out to Delaware quickly here.
Let's go
a live
here.
look. There is it's called a dignified transfer ceremony. 2 soldiers, National Guard soldiers from Iowa, killed over the weekend in Syria. They are arriving home right now. So we will sit on this for a little bit and take this to the end of the show.